In this video, I'm going to introduce the traffic sources section. So this is a new tracker where I haven't set anything up yet. So I'm just going to go straight into creating a new traffic source. A traffic source being, Facebook, Bing, Google AdWords, whatever advertising platform is sending clicks to your system. So pretty straightforward. Start with a name. I'll just put some name here. You can put a category if you want. We have a few templates in here or pre-existing categories, or you can add a new one or leave it on uncategorized by default. This is just for ordering the traffic sources for your own convenience and nothing more. Right, the next thing we have here is the cost type. So in all of the tracking links that get created in FunnelFlux, there's a Flux cost parameter that is optionally added to them. If you have no default cost here, then that parameter won't exist in the URL at all because it's pointless to have some cost equals 0, right? But if you put some default like 0.1, then in all the URLs you create for this traffic source, it'll have flux cost equals 0.1 automatically added to the URL. This doesn't override and force some cost on every incoming click from this traffic source. All it does is change the templating of the link that you get given. So if you get a link, you could just manually delete it from the link text if you wanted. Now CPE means cost per entrance, so every cost applied to every incoming click. The other option here is CPA. Now CPA is cost based on conversions. So this is most common in the sort of app install industry where I send traffic from some source and I only get charged for that traffic when a conversion happens. So what you can do is add a cost to your traffic only when conversions happen. You can either put an actual value, say $54 or whatever it may be, or for CPA here, you can actually put a percentage. So you can put 75%. So if a payout or a conversion happened in FunnelFlux and it sent through and said conversion with revenue of $10 had happened, it would add a cost of $7.50 to that actual traffic. So it's kind of up to you to figure out what you want to do here, but generally I would just leave this blank because in most cases you're not going to need it, but there are some traffic sources which might have a way of passing cost. For example, with a token like bid or something like that. So it's up to you, but this is kind of a minor part of all of this. Now, the meat and bones of the traffic source configuration is the tracking fields section here. So this is where you configure the fields that will get passed in the URL. So you'll get some link which has the identifiers that tell FunnelFlux what campaign and funnel the click should be going to. And then you'll have the additional data that you want to pass from your traffic source to FunnelFlux. So you'll have this equals that, and this equals that, and this equals that, and so on and so on. So it's up to you to put whatever field names you want in here. They'll appear in the URL just like this. These names are completely up to you. And these token slots here are where you'll want to put any sort of token that the traffic source might allow, that it might process dynamically into some real useful piece of information. If you want to manually change this per ad or per campaign, because there is no dynamic token for it. So for example, you're on Facebook and you want to send something for the age group or describing the age group of the traffic that you're sending. Usually I would do something like this where I put age and I put replace in capital letters here so that when I get my link and I put it in my traffic source, it reminds me that I need to change that into some real useful value. So it's up to you to configure these and you can delete them and so on. And again, this just templates the links that FunnelFlux will generate for you for your campaigns. So putting these here, having these existing, means that if data comes in under those parameters, FunnelFlux will save it to the system. But this doesn't kind of hard code in any particular requirements. Like if you put age here and replace here, you don't have to send that parameter to Funnelflux. It's just that if you do, it'll save it to the database. Conversely, if I was to send some random value in my URL, like and banana equals apple, if I don't have that defined here, it's not going to get stored in the database at all. It's going to get ignored, right? You have to do it like that. Otherwise, I mean, people could technically kind of spam your links with thousands of weird parameters and really confuse your tracking system. So to give a nice example here, I'm going to go to the templates and I'm just going to scroll down and pick ZeroPark and let it fill out this section here. So you can see here we have these predefined tracking fields and the tokens from that traffic source already filled out. So if we don't have a template here, it's kind of up to you to figure out what these tokens are. You'll have to find that in your traffic source documentation, whether they exist or not. And if you have any questions there, let us know, because we're usually familiar with most traffic sources. Okay, and then finally down the bottom here we have conversion tracking for the traffic source. So many traffic sources will have postback URL tracking. That's where you can define it here. So here we see we have the postback already set with this replace section where we have to fill out some key or ID specific to our account. And we have payout being passed back as Flux payout. That's our internal Funnelflux token for payout. And you have tracking field CID written here. Now, if we look up here, you'll see this field CID. So for any one of these fields that we define here, any piece of information stored under these fields can be passed forward in Funnelflux to landers, to offers, to wherever, by creating a token starting with tracking field, dash, and then the name of that tracking field. So if I wanted to pass target, for example, to an offer, in my offer URL that I configure later, I would need to have curly bracket tracking field dash target curly bracket. That is the way I would actually pass that in terms of a token, which you can kind of see here described a bit. And here you can see the tokens that we allow in your postbacks. So I'm using Flux payout here, but I don't need to use the hit ID and I don't really need to use transaction ID, although this can be useful in some situations. So for example, you might have an affiliate network pass back a transaction ID to Funnelflux for lead and for sale or something like that. And then you might be using a traffic source like MGID, where you want to then pass that word, that transaction ID, back to MGID as well because of the way their conversion tracking works. Okay, so it's again up to you to configure these and make sure they're correct. Again, let us know if you need any help. And besides postback URL, there's a few other tracking methods you can pick. For some traffic sources, when there is no conversion tracking, you just pick none. You don't have to actually set any of these. You can also put a pixel URL or JavaScript. Note that both of these are client-side, so JavaScript and image pixel URL tracking, they need to fire in a user's browser, so you can't do server-to-server or postback tracking and make that work. So if I'm using Facebook, for example, which I'll just find in here, if I'm using Facebook, they have no postback, but they do have JavaScript, although I wouldn't really recommend setting it globally here. So if I have a click going to an offer, that offer converts, and I have a postback URL from the vendor, advertiser, affiliate network sending a postback to Funnelflux, I can't use that to trigger JavaScript tracking code for this traffic source. Whenever you use JavaScript or a pixel URL, you need to use the iframe tracking to actually proxy that back to the traffic source. So you can find that on this page here, or I'll click this iframe. Here you go. This iframe here, I would have to place that with the affiliate network or on the thank you or conversion page to then actually bring in this traffic source code when the conversion happens and kind of loop that in. Again, it needs to be client-side. That's kind of the limitation there with all kind of tracking. Okay, but in any case, you can set whatever you want in these. And then at the funnel level, when you're actually configuring specific funnels and campaigns, you can specifically override the postbacks and the tracking that are being used per traffic source, as well as the cost. So this here is more just basic global templating to help you with setting things up. And there's always ways to do a little bit more specific configuration down the line when you're running a proper campaign. Okay, so that's everything for traffic sources. Once you save them, they'll appear in the actual list here. There's not much more for them to do here other than be the template for what you want links for that traffic source to look like. You can edit them, delete them, and remove them and so on. And of course, you can see the statistics broken down by traffic source here. But in many cases, you'll be looking at your stats directly and breaking things down by campaign and traffic source, campaign and funnel and so on first. Okay, that's everything comprehensively explained for traffic sources. So I'll see you in the next video.